Greetings and welcome on down to What's Trending. Last week, we began a two-part series on the Guyana-Venezuela border controversy and provided a historical timeline of events which spanned from 1648 all the way to 1905. Before we pick up where we left off, here's a quick recap of what was discussed. Between 1648 and 1814, the Dutch were in control of the colonies of the Guyanas. After the Napoleonic Wars, the Dutch lost control of the colonies of Berbice, Demerara, and Essequibo, which merged into British Guyana. In 1840, a German-born explorer was marking the border between British Guyana and Venezuela, and the line kept itching up into Venezuela. Venezuela naturally protested the British bullying and cried into the arms of the United States. The British agreed to submit the issue to arbitration, and in 1899, the border dispute was settled by that tribunal. Between 1990 and 1905, the border was physically marked under the supervision of the British and Venezuelan representatives, and the map of Guyana as we know it was born. If you need to know all the details of what was discussed, I will insert a link to part 1 in the description of this video. I highly recommend you go watch that first and then come back here if you have not seen part 1 as yet. Anyways, time for part 2. But before we do, peep the intro quick.
Hey, something ever surprise you like when you see Tigala? What?
This video is supported by Sheriff Security, Powered Automotive, and the GT Eats food app. So in 1905, the map of Guyana was born. Wait, these people thief that low-key timeline thing. I ain't got no shame at Guyana uncut. Hi, yago. Anyways, in 1905, the border with Venezuela was marked in accordance with the 1899 Arbitral Award. And as you may know, the borders of Guyana, Brazil, and Venezuela meet at a tri-junction point on Mount Roraima. Venezuela was demanding strict adherence with the 1899 award and therefore wanted this tri-junction point to be marked definitively. In 1926, a process was initiated that resulted in a Guyana-Brazil border agreement, and a Brazil-Venezuela border agreement was made in 1928. Venezuela at this point was still insisting on strict and absolute conformity with the 1899 award, and we know why. Remember, they gained territory from that award, so they were not willing to give up a single blade of grass. Where did I hear this before? Let me know sing it before I get sued. Anyways, in 1931, all parties concluded the border junction with a tripartite agreement, and a 7-foot-tall marker was erected on the summit of Mount Roraima. This therefore means, as a result of the 1899 Arbitral Award, the boundary with Brazil and Venezuela was also marked by virtue of this junction. Venezuela's official map throughout the years depicted the boundary line between Venezuela and British Guyana. When you check their historical archives, you will see Venezuela's map in its correct form. All maps of the world drawn since then recognize the border between Venezuela and British Guyana as per the boundary line of the 1899 award. Fast forward to 1954. British Guyana was being led by a group of intelligent people that began to prepare for self-rule and eventual independence from Great Britain. Venezuelan officials raised concerns about the ramifications Guyana's independence would have on some issues they were trying to raise on the rectification of the frontiers. They wanted to make sure that there will be no change in the status. Remember, they gained land territory from the arbitration. I too would be very jumpy about British Guyana coming back for their piece of land if I were Venezuela. In 1962, is when Venezuela catch the Jambi. This Jambi is what is still haunting us today and why there is a controversy over the border between Guyana and Venezuela. It is in 1962, Venezuela made a contention that the 1899 Arbitral Award was invalid. I know, WTF, right? But let's hear why. Venezuela was allegedly discontented with the land territory that was given to them via the 1899 award and started to claim that they want an equitable rectification. This is just 4 years before Guyana's independence, when Great Britain was in the process of decolonizing British Guyana. Venezuela then ran back into the arms of the United States and delivered a memorandum to DOS asserting that the 1899 award was inequitable and unfair, and it was calling for negotiation with the United Kingdom to reach an agreement on a new boundary with British Guyana. I know, WTF. But they made it clear in that memorandum that they were not questioning the legality of the award. The new question was about fairness. The basis of this claim was that none of the judges on the tribunal was a Venezuelan, and Venezuela questioned their morality. Venezuela then advanced this claim to the United Nations via their representative, Dr. Carlos Souza Rodriguez, who told the UN that the award was a result of a political transaction carried out behind Venezuela's back and sacrificing its legitimate rights. Basically, he was trying to say that the judges sold out to the Brits and that they were cheated. He then went on to state that the Venezuelan people unanimously refused to acknowledge its validity and demanded the injustice be redressed. His people refused unanimously. Did they hold a referendum back then? This too sounds familiar. If only it was my business. Anyways, history shows that the Venezuelan president at the time, Romulo Betancourt, was defending his country's claim as a means of both delaying British Guyana's independence and preventing the spread of a potential communist influence. That's not what this video is about though. Let's keep focus. Remember we friend Severo Mallet Prevost from part 1? We have to go back down the timeline to tell his story. So let's roll back a bit to 1949. A memorandum he allegedly authored surfaced a month after his death. In this dead man's memorandum, Mr. Mallet Prevost expressed the opinion that the boundary established by the arbitral tribunal was a result of a political transaction between the president of the tribunal and the British, by which the British would receive more territory than it deserved in exchange for British support of Russian objectives in another part of the world. The president of the tribunal was Russian, as you would recall, and was selected for the post by 2 Venezuelan appointed representatives and 2 British appointed representatives. In this dead man's memorandum, Mr. Mallet Prevost did not state how he learned about this purported deal, and he did not point to anywhere where evidence could be obtained to support the claim. And he also was, of course, dead. So no questions could be asked of him. We later learned that this memorandum is the spark that caused the flames of the border controversy between Guyana and Venezuela. A document that did not have 1 ounce of credibility. There's much more to this history, but this is the essence of the matter. So let me fast forward to 1965. Venezuela, after consulting with themselves, published a new official map of Venezuela and designated the entire county of Essequibo as Guyana Essequiba, Zona en Reclamación, or an area to be reclaimed. Remember in part 1 when I noted that the entire Essequibo was never a part of the dispute and just the area further west? I don't know where this map came from, but I suspect it came from a dark place where the sun does not shine. Despite having no basis for this claim besides the dead man's memorandum, which is in itself a document that was not scrutinized and lacks credibility, Venezuela went on to etch this fallacy into their history and started campaigning and teaching their kids this narrative that Essequibo is theirs and they will one day reclaim it. There's nothing that anyone could say to Venezuelans that will change their minds on this position. So, in 1966 on the timeline, in view of aggressive rhetoric being exchanged between Guyana and Venezuela, this issue caused grave concern and threatened peace and stability in the region. The parties were forced to negotiate a peaceful way forward due to international pressure. This led to the popularly referenced Geneva Agreement, which set out a procedure for resolving the controversy arising from Venezuela's claim that the 1899 arbitral award was null and void. The first steps taken towards a resolution was the Good Offices process, which went straight up to 2014. Venezuela maintained that the 1899 award was invalid, and that assertion eventually led to the failure of the first and second rounds of the Good Offices process, which was facilitated by the UN Secretary General up to 2017. Venezuela kept getting opportunities to present evidence to their argument that they were cheated, and at every occasion, they failed to do so, and talks continued to fail. There were more rounds of the Good Offices process, and they all crashed, with Venezuela maintaining their position that the 1899 award was invalid. It is then former President Granger in March 2018 took the case to the International Court of Justice for final and absolute settlement. This move stemmed from the Geneva Agreement that gave the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, the authority to decide on the means of final settlement if talks failed. The Secretary General had given the green light to move to the International Court. Wait, we that till in 2018, hey? Now's a good time to tell you that the #1 security service in Guyana is Sheriff Security. For armed or unarmed guards and high-tech security solutions, the Sheriff is at your service. Plus, they're looking for more guards. If you're looking for work during this robbery season, visit Sheriff on Sheriff Street, Sir Brianville, and tell them Mudwata sent you. And if you're hungry, GT Eats is an app that lets you order food in Guyana from top restaurants and pay securely online with your credit or debit card. You could download the GT Eats app at the Apple or Android stores. Finally, Powered Automotive is holding a Black Friday sale with deep discounts on truck and engine parts, up to 50% off selected items. They're the biggest truck parts store in Guyana, and this is their first customer appreciation sale. Keep your heavy-duty engines running smoothly with Powered Automotive, the #1 heavy-duty engine and truck parts store in Guyana. Call them on 697-0171 and ask for the Dirty Mudwata deal. Moving on. If you're still here, it means you have a keen interest in this topic. Just do me a favor there and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And turn on post notifications so you could get updates when we post new videos. I promise you, this channel is the most complete package for information and entertainment about Guyanese Caribbean-related matters. So, in 2018, the case was submitted to the ICJ for final settlement. Venezuela first objected to the court's jurisdiction to hear the matter and made submissions to that effect, which was followed by a June 2020 hearing. In December 2020, the court ruled against Venezuela's favor that they had jurisdiction and will proceed to adjudicate the matter. This meant parties now had to make submissions on the merits of the case. In November 2022, the case was heard, and this brings us to 2023, finally. At the time of this video, the court is preparing to make a ruling, and there are some recent developments, including a referendum Venezuela is preparing to hold to ask their people some stuff, and a whole host of other things. I will make a separate video to give you my two piece on what I feel about this current situation. I don't want to cuss in this video, but that's the history, y'all. We all think Venezuela right to bully we like how the British bullied them before the 1899 award, or they should relax themselves? Let me know in the comments. And if you're interested in advertising on this show, message me personally on WhatsApp at 592-659-6151 and request the quote. Yo, my name is Mudwata. Boom out!
Hold up.